How many times have you been to a place of business and the employee who is helping you puts forth a small effort? Okay. Is that the employee's fault? Is that the business's fault? Is that society's fault? Well, there's something called quiet quitting that I'm not sure if a lot of people know about it or not. At least not a lot of people in my generation. So we're going to discuss that and more on tonight's Talk to Q. Everyone get ready. Buckle up.
P2Q Radio.
Hey, what up, Q? What up, Radio World?
What's going on, people? I want to welcome all of you to another episode of Talk to Q. My name is Quincy, and this is my show. And I'm coming to you live. It is Tuesday, October 11th. Yeah, October 11th, 2022. This is episode number 1006. All right, so tonight's topic, quiet quitting. Contrary to what a lot of people may believe, quiet quitting isn't new. It never really had a name until recently, but now more than ever, people are embracing the culture and it's impacting businesses across the country. Tonight, we'll discuss what quiet quitting is and why it's happening. But first, let me go to the T2Q virtual phone lines to see who will be joining the mix this evening. And I will start here and travel to the great north to what is it, Ottawa, Ontario, Canada.
That's right.
And welcome back, Susie. Susie, what's
Hi.
going on?
How you doing? Happy to be here.
All right. Glad to see you. And I have a show legend who is coming on. So let me get to my show legend and make sure that he has a proper introduction. From the 601 area code, the Magnolia State of Mississippi, he plays a doctor on the radio. Please welcome Dr. Willis to the Talk to Q radio show. What's happening?
Hey, what's going on, Q? Hey, Susie, once again.
Hey.
What's going on, man?
Hey,
All
same old,
right.
same old.
And shout out to Bill Janice in Alabama. Good to see you. Okay, so are we our own worst enemy when it comes to the workplace? We work ourselves to death with hopes of getting more money, more recognition, all of that on the job, only to sometimes be disappointed with our raise if we get one at all. Or sometimes the company may even lay you off despite all of your hard work. So I guess my first question is, well, first of all, let me define quiet quitting. Quiet quitting is when you do a minimal job. You do exactly what's required of you in order to get by and get a paycheck every week. So if you're only required to bag groceries at Walmart, that's all you're going to do. You're not going to do anything extra. If you see some trash laying out on the floor, you're not going to pick it up, throw it in the trash because it's not part of your job description or anything. I mean, that's a brief example, but it's basically doing the minimum in order to get by. So, Susie, I'll start with you ladies first. Some people say quiet quitting is done to reduce stress levels. Can quiet quitting be a good thing for the person who's doing it?
I think so. I think the pandemic really working from home helped us realize the value of work-life balance and the value to our mental health. And I think people are realizing that, hey, I bust my butt at work and it doesn't do anything. Like I don't get anything for return, but home means a lot more. My family, my friends means a lot more. So I'm going to put in the bare minimum. I'm not going to do any more than I need to. Uh, it's preservation, right? I don't think it's a bad thing, but I think people can take it too far. Yes. But I think making sure that you're valued, and it's going to push employers to also value their employees a little bit more and appreciate their input a little bit more, I think.
Okay. And Dr. Willis, how do you feel about it?
Well, with quiet quitting, I'm a supervisor, so I look at this a little bit different. So, you know, it it's not necessarily a bad thing, but at the same time, if it is affecting the company, then that's on that company, because most companies and industries usually have a catch-all phrase anyway, that you know that kind of say you are beholden to other duties in the job that may not be explicitly written on that job description. And that catch-all phrase usually goes something like, and anything else directed, or as directed, by your supervisor and things like that. So if quiet quitting is affecting a business or an industry, then that's on that company, and that's not on the person, because they usually have a catch-all. But if used effectively, though, I think that you can strike a healthy, work and life balance between, home and work, home and your job. So,
Okay. All right. And going to the chat room, Ashley in Mississippi says, "Oh, I'm gonna do that anyway. They know not to ask me for more. I stay within my pay range." Okay, Ashley. And Dope Discussions Live chimed in from Louisiana. People are realizing that they are disposable at these jobs. They're not stressing themselves, going above and beyond anymore. All right, that's Erica chiming in from Louisiana. Dope Discussions Live. And I mean, there's also a term called act your wage. Okay, not act your age, act your wage, meaning you give an effort that is equal to your salary.
hmm,
And let me go to back to the phone lines and see if I can get someone else in the mix. I'm going to go to the, let's see, what's the nickname for this state? The Mount Rushmore State. Yes, I think that's it. In South Dakota. And welcome on Carrie, the Camouflage Beauty. Carrie, what's going on?
Hey y'all, I'm good. How y'all doing?
what's up, Carrie?
Doing well,
Hey.
doing well. And oops, got another show legend who's popping in. So let me get him in the mix.
What up, Radio
From
World?
the 601 area code in the Magnolia State of Mississippi, please welcome on the original show legend, the Minister of Sexual Affairs, Eminem. What's shaking, man?
Hey, what up, Q-Web Radio World?
What's happening, man?
Oh, man, all kind of crazy shit, man. It's crazy as fuck. But rolling with it, though, man.
All right, all right. So, Carrie, let's go to you, and we're discussing the term "act your wage," where people feel like if they're only getting paid a certain amount, they should only do a certain level of work. How do you feel about that attitude?
So, I mean, I understand the concept, right? And I kind of feel like people need to get a fair wage for the work that they do. The problem is a lot of people are acting below their wage, in my opinion, right? You're getting paid good job, good money, good benefits, but you want to come in here and give bare minimum. So I'm with Dr. Will, like I'm a supervisor too. And so for me, I understand the concept of quiet quitting. I do think it can have some mental health benefits for the person who's ready to retire or whatever the case is. But as a supervisor, I also believe in quiet firing. So we're going to slowly
Yes,
exit you out and bring someone in that wants to get paid to do the job.
exactly.
All right, so I'm gonna get the quiet firing a little later. I'm glad you brought that up. I appreciate you bringing that up. We're gonna get to that a little bit later, but so Eminem, what can companies do to improve the work ethic of their staff? Okay, what can they do to help?
Well, I mean, first of all, what they can do is they got to discriminate a little bit. And I don't mean it in a bad way, but in a good way. If you got somebody that they on time or relatively on time, they they don't mind kind of doing a little extra or helping somebody out, kind of like being a true team player. Well, I mean, you can't have a short memory with that, and I think that for the most part with average employees anyway, if you show some kind of appreciation, I mean, they understand. They know you can't just start throwing money at them all the time. They know how everybody got a budget. But at the same time, you can cut them some slack when they need slack cut, if that makes sense. It's like, shit, man, the janitor quit and I'm helping you take garbage out.
Okay, I get. All right, so as far as the whole, like from a supervisor's perspective, so this is really for Dr. Will and Carrie. From a supervisor's perspective, isn't the company responsible to think about how how they treat their employees, what they pay in their employees is affecting their work ethic and thus for affecting the customer? Isn't that the company's responsibility?
Yeah, and the company, I'll say my company. I'm not gonna say it on online, but my company does go out the way to make sure that supervisors are held to a higher standard. That these guys are taking into mental health into account. We're excessively loose with our leave policies. You can take leave anytime you want, how many times you want. We try to balance all those things out. But we got people that are just not going to do right because A, you may be younger than them, telling them what to do. B, being in Mississippi, there's a racial component. Let's not, ignore the elephant in the room. You got a black supervisor, white worker, or you got black on black, what I'm saying? You got, black folks, you can't tell me what to do, that type of thing. I'm a human being, I mean, I hear all this stuff. So you throw all those dynamics in there, what I'm saying? And then you got loose policies, in your company that makes it easier for the employees, what I'm saying, to balance those things out. It's really, really tough to supervise. But, you know, I think also you also have to look at the jobs too. It was like what Carrie was saying, you know, in those jobs where you're not making a lot of money, that may be, saying a real issue. But when you're talking about, the lowest person under you making, at least $50,000 and stuff, quiet quitting should be, what I'm saying, it shouldn't even be in your vocabulary. What I'm saying, you're getting paid really well to do, what I'm saying, what we're hoping to be, outstanding work, you know, and that ain't gonna come with just doing just the bare minimum, you know. What I do is I let it reflect on their ratings, when it's time to sit down, and we're required to do it twice a year, but I sit with my guys quarterly, so they get four ratings from me each year, two official, two unofficial. So there's no question about it at the end of the year when they find that last rating. They shouldn't have any question about or be upset about what they're getting because I've been telling you throughout the year, you know, and also to move up that ladder, you got to demonstrate, what I'm saying, leadership. You got to demonstrate that, going above and beyond. I'm not going to promote you just because you're doing what what you're told to do. What are you doing that's, what I'm saying, excellent or outstanding? What are you doing that's outside of the scope of what you're told to do? These are the people I'm looking for to run, what I'm saying, to be replacing me. So if you're not about that, you just want to quiet quit and and do that, then that's fine. You know what I'm saying? You have to, that's a conversation you have to go home and talk with your spouse about, why you're not moving up or why you're not doing these things. But my organization definitely take into account and do everything they can to make sure that the mental health aspect of each employee is there to make sure that these guys are, you know, that we're the company to work for. It's just that sometimes it's not appreciated.
Okay. And real quick, let me go to the comments. And no discussion says, I've been guilty of doing the job of two people but only getting one paycheck. It was taken for granted. And so I don't do that anymore unless I'm compensated. And Ashley said, I agree with Eminem because that's why I only do what's in my job description now. And Susie, I want to go back to you real quick. How does parenting affect this? Like, for example, my parents were very strict with me when it came to work ethic. They
Mhm.
always made sure I was super early to any job, and they always told me to go above and beyond to make sure I did a good job. So, what kind of role does parenting have in all of this? Do you think that's part of the issue, or is it deeper than that?
Oh, 100%. Like my parents were new immigrants to Canada and well, back in the 70s. And, my mom waitressed and my dad washed dishes and they worked hard to give us a good life. And they were an example of hard work. So my brother and I learned from them to work hard. Um, and I think parents these days, and we see that a lot with newer generations. My husband's a teacher, and parents enable their kids, and they try and baby them and do everything for them. So when these kids go into the workplace, they have a different value system than you and I might. Because we grew up kind of in a different environment. Not everyone, like obviously, we can't make blanket statements, but I think parents encouraging their kids to work hard and being examples of hard work, I think makes a huge difference. But I think for a lot of people, and I'll go back to my point about the working from home and the pandemic and the impact it had on people's work. Uh, if there's no value added to putting in more effort than what's required, uh, sure, work really hard to get a promotion and to show that uh, you want that and that you're doing well and you're learning and you're growing. But if the organization doesn't recognize it or appreciate it, then why should you do it? So I think there's no there's no one answer to this question, because it really depends on your goals, and it depends on the organization you're working for, and your life. On another parenting thing, I mean, work-life balance when you're a parent is huge, because you have so many other priorities in your life. So for these a lot of people, you need to have that balance, and quitting kind of helps you achieve that in a certain way, especially if your organization isn't as understanding.
Okay. And Carrie, she mentioned the pandemic. And for a lot of people, when the pandemic hit and people who got the opportunity to work from home did so, it changed a lot. It really changed a lot because some people had the freedom to kind of do their own thing while others, took it a different way, maybe even worked harder because they had the comforts of home or something. So, what kind of role do you think the pandemic played in all of this? Do you think that that's the reason why all of this finally came to the forefront? Because even though it's not new, it has a name now.
Yeah, so I definitely think the pandemic had something to do with it. I think we realized that I'm kind of digging what Erica said earlier about I'm no longer going to do what's in my job description, to a sense, right? So I understand that, because before the pandemic, a lot of us were working extra hard, right? We have that work ethic that our parents may have put in us, and we're working our fingers to the bones without even realizing how hard you're working. And if we took so much time away from the job, you realize you're missing out on so much more in life. And I kind of feel like it scared us in shape to a certain extent, to start to realize what is important in life. The truth, though, for me is that um, I value freedom. And in order for me to get the freedom that I want, I have to do what I have to do right now. And so whatever flexibilities my job gives me, I allow, I take that. I do think the job, go back to your previous question, the job has a responsibility to provide, an environment for the person, right? But the person also has the opportunity to quit, except in my job. So, and I'm in the military. Like, we have free healthcare. It's not perfect. It's not designed to make you rich, right? But we have given them so much latitude. But I do think there's a generational difference, and I see that a lot when I'm supervising, young people who are 18 and 19 years old. They grew up watching 10-year-olds making $1 million off YouTube. And so they don't understand the value of coming to work 7:30 to 4:30, because they understand that they
That's a
could
good
go out
point.
here, start a side hustle, get a YouTube channel, start OnlyFans, and make as much money that I'm making or more. And I've been in this workforce anyway for 18, 19 years. So I kind of feel like the pandemic opened our eyes to a lot of different things. And these young people, I shouldn't call them children, but these younger people are not us. And if you're in a supervisor role, you have to understand why, right? Because we want to retain good talent. If they're quietly quitting, there's also a responsibility on that company to find out why. How do you retain the talent that you need for your company to grow?
You make a great point. You make a great point. And Eminem, to build on her point, we grew up in an era where your parents always told you can be anything you want. You can be the president. But now there's so many other ways to get rich and, have a good job outside of being the president, so to speak. I wouldn't want that job personally. But Eminem, do you agree with her? Do you think that that there's a culture change as far as the generations and that they just got smarter and realized there are other ways they can be making money?
Oh, definitely. And then now this is the crazy thing. I was against all that at first, but then when you start thinking about it, it's like, well, hold on, man. I've been doing this and doing this and doing this, and I'm still James Evans to an extent. Fuck that. So it's just like, we was pretty much, especially 70s babies, 60s babies, 70s babies, were pretty much brainwashed. Not that it was a bad thing, because morally it made us tough and all that kind of stuff, but we was basically bred to be Calvins and shit. Y'all remember Calvin? He walked old lady across the street. Then he went from fries, and then every comedian took off talking about this shit. But I mean, literally, the Calvin scenario was what basically everybody was taught. It don't matter what you do, you get on, you do your best. You don't take no job with the attitude like, man, these motherfuckers ain't paying me enough to do this shit. You don't have that attitude. You go and work as if you're working with a smile, even though you ain't making but I think my prayer $3.35 an hour, some shit like that. I'm just saying, like, but kids now and this generation, especially Gen Z and younger millennials, the lower part of the millennials, even though all the millennials, but definitely the lower part in Gen Z, no, they ain't hearing that, because for everything you say, they can counter it, and it won't be just some long shot. It's like daily somebody of their peers is literally not only making it but getting rich. So it's hard to just totally shut that down. Like, oh man, that's like winning the lottery. No, it's not like winning the lottery. Like, it's happening so much. Everybody's not gonna get rich, of course, and everybody's not gonna do it. But you got man, this is some crazy shit. You got damn middle schoolers and shit. The ones with no home training already got illegal only fan pages and shit, making a killing. You got motherfuckers running these Cashapp schemes and all that, and you got kids doing that stuff, and they know how to do it. So to turn around and say, if you work hard, scrub these floors, wash these dishes, or make up these beds and all that, and 35 years from now, you can finally go to Hawaii with your spouse. They ain't hearing that shit, man. So it's like, it's more like a kind of like what you're saying, how you raised, and then really it's more like generational now, more so than how you raised, because it's pretty much the consensus of most people. It seems to be anyway in this age. But what's scary is like, when you got that kind of mentality, nobody can't tell you shit. Well, the people who don't make it learn the hard way. So that's why crime is higher. That's why, quality and basic jobs is down. It used to be only when you go into the hood, you get some chick at the counter with a bad attitude. Now, shit, man, you can be in Timbuktu and still you hear the shit be on beep, beep, beep. People just talking and shit like, shit, I ain't making enough to be no hurry, so hey.
Okay, good points. Good points. And Erica said, with the rise of mental health awareness, we're realizing that hustle culture is unhealthy. Okay. And she also says, I realized that I made my job such a big part of my identity, and my personal relationships suffered because of that. My priorities are different now. And really quick, back to the phone lines I go. From the 850 area code, the Emerald coastline of Pensacola, Florida, making his way to the ring, the man in black, the Buckster. What's going on, Buck? What's happening, Buck?
Hey, how's everybody doing this evening?
What's up, Buck?
Doing all right.
What's up?
All right. And Carrie, I want to go back to you because you mentioned quiet firing. And so I want you, well, quiet firing is essentially the same thing as quiet quitting. It's just the company's doing it. For example, that company may not give you a raise for 5 years because they want you to leave, or maybe you don't get included in big projects or included in important meetings because they're kind of phasing you out. And so, Carrie, is quiet firing a good thing? I mean, is that how companies, I guess, counteract quiet quitting?
So I want to touch on a couple things, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Will talked about earlier. I think it was Will anyway. Talked about earlier that you give a feedback, right? So this ain't no surprise. If you ain't been, if every one of your peers around you are climbing the ladder to some capacity, you should have it internally in you, right? Innate to know where you stand. So I mean, I feel like some supervisors are not confrontational, and it's the company's job. They can also quiet fire you. It is what it is. The same way you can quiet quit, you have the right to do that. We have the right to quietly fire you as well. And we could do it loudly as well too. So going back to what Erica was talking about with the hustle culture, hustling is unhealthy unless you're working for yourself. They've been quiet firing us. They've been not elevating us. They've been asking us to do what's out of our scope. They've been giving us more, right? And I like to say people who work really hard sometimes are rewarded with more work. And when that's happening, more work, but not the same amount of pay, or more pay that equates to the more work. So I kind of feel like I'm not mad at the people who are quiet quitting for, hey, I need to do more. I'm gonna go hustle for myself. I'm gonna go start a side business or do the dream job I always wanted to, or spend more time with my family. The ones I'm mad at are the ones who are quietly quitting by not doing a lot of work, but still expect pay. Don't want you to correct them in any way. Don't want you to say anything about them. Don't want you to mark them down on their feedback. And then when I quietly decide to give you your exit papers, then you want to be mad and go to HR, whatever the case is. Those are the people I have a problem with. But I do think quiet firing is the same as quiet quitting. And I feel like that's only fair.
Okay. And so no one feels like one is worse than the other.
Well, I'll say this: as far as the firing, it's really really tough in my industry to fire anybody. That's what make my job as a supervisor super hard, but it can be done. And so getting back to, like, what Eric was saying as well, the hustle thing, okay, or even with what Eminem was saying. If you want to do an OnlyFans, if you got the body for OnlyFans, you got the knowledge for YouTube, you got the smarts to build an app and do all these things, go do that. There's somebody out there that don't have those skills, that don't have that body, that really want a job that's paying well. Get out the way and let them come on in. All right, take those skills that you think you have or that you can do, and go do those things. Don't come here and slow up this train because you're not getting promoted fast enough, or you want to be able to make this much money, but have all the time off in the world, or not do anything at work, or not be told what to do by somebody you don't like. Okay. That's the problem what we're seeing nowadays. You know what I'm saying? We got people with, it's not even the work, it's not even the culture, or well, not let me rephrase, it's not the policies or the job itself that's got these people quiet quitting. It's the fact that they may have a grudge, or they just may not like you. That is probably more prevalent now than a company with bad policies, because a lot of these companies, they spend more money recruiting people than they do retaining people. They don't want to recruit. They don't want to go out there, and they don't want to lose you. So they're changing their policies to fit the employee. The employee, I'm telling you, and so the employee may appreciate these changes for a month or so, or 6 months or so, and then guess what? Now they found the next thing to be mad about, or the next thing that pissing them off. So I'm saying that if you're one of those employees that got an issue with everything, then go off and do the OnlyFans. Go off and build an app. You know what I'm saying? Be great. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna wish you well, you know what I'm saying, and send you on your way. But if you're coming in the industry and you're under me, then what I'm telling you right now is that, hey, there's a catch-all phrase that says, and any other job is directed. Okay. So literally there's no quiet quitting. There's no minimum job that you can do. All right. I got a catch-all phrase to say anything that I tell you to do, you know what I'm saying? You're responsible for doing it. So that's just what it is. Now, personally, I take it upon myself to make sure that I'm seeing the signs. You know, what I'm saying, okay, if a employee is not, you know, what I'm saying their usual self today, I pull them to the side. Hey, what's going on? I have an open door policy. Come on in and talk to me. If you need to vent, vent. You know, what I'm saying, cuss me out. Do whatever you got to do. You know, what I'm saying, just be respectful. You know, what I'm saying, just do it in the confine. Do it in
Curse
the
me out
confine.
respectfully.
Right. Because no, what I meant tactfully, right? But do it in the confines of our office. Don't do it out in front of anybody else and things like that. All right, come in and let it go. I give my guys that opportunity. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't have thin skin, and and I know that it's something bothering them, so I don't take it personal. But like I said, making the amount of money that you're making, and then you're telling me that you don't want to do this or it's not in your job description. I'm gonna hold that PD up to you, and I'm gonna read you that one little line at the bottom, and we're gonna kill that right then. And then you can, like I said, you can go off and do OnlyFans if that don't help you.
Y'all are stuck on that
Oh,
OnlyFans.
I love it, man. Because I'm telling you, OnlyFans that's a money maker. But everybody can't do OnlyFans, though.
All right. So last question before we move on to the other topic. And Susie, I'll go to you, then I'll go to Buck. Uh, Susie, I guess when it's all said and done, for a lot of this, let's take money out of it. Can your boss make or break your happiness at work?
Absolutely. I think uh, it's no one's job to make you happy, but at the same time, the work environment should be a positive one. And if there is something that is making your employees unhappy, then you need to find out why. Like if your employee is quiet quitting and you notice that they're not giving their 100%, I think it's important to have that conversation. And like with the quiet firing, I think it's unfair in a way if you haven't spoken over time with your employee and given feedback. Uh, but if you have given feedback, then I mean that's a different story. But I think uh, it is up to the employee as well to share their unhappiness, and it's a two-way street, right? It has to be an interpersonal communication thing between the manager and the employee. And I think now it's harder than ever to retain really good employees. So I think it's important to make the work environment somewhere where they're happy. So it's important.
Okay. And Buck, I mean, you have your own business, man, so you're pretty much the boss as it goes. Um, isn't it important to establish a relationship with your employees so that they will run through a wall for you, so to speak?
Most definitely. I mean, because there are jobs that I do hire people for when they're larger jobs. So it's important that you go the extra mile for them because that way they'll be more apt to come back. In the event that you have another large job, because I try to network with other companies. Because when you're a small business like mine, it's always good to network with people because they may know somebody that needs some extra work, or if I have some extra work that I can't get to, I will refer out for them, so that way they can take it over. So it's just very important that able to do those things.
Okay. All right. And in the chat room, let's see. TK chimed in from Texas. I do just enough. I'm not appreciated, and she does not value her employees. And she also said, I have to pray and meditate before I go in. Mm, that's bad. That's bad. I've had a job like that before back in the day where I just felt sick to my stomach going to work. Dope discussions in Louisiana says hostile work environments affect performance in the workplace and quality of life outside of the job. All right. OG chimed in from Mississippi. Yes, your boss can make or break your happiness at work. Some people are good at delegating and not good managers. Okay. Okay. And all in all, that's an inside joke to Buck right there from Mr. Shelton. And all in all, I think that quiet quitting, when I first heard of well, like I said, it's nothing new, but we'll call it phenomenon, whatever you want to call it. When I first heard about it, I was like, okay, here we go again with some foolishness. But as I started to learn more, I understand why people do it. I do. And I think that companies need to work on, trying to, I mean, and because quiet quitting basically means that the motivation and level of engagement with employees is poor. Okay. A lot of people aren't working full time, if at all, in the office anymore. So employee engagement isn't great in most cases either because people are working from home. You can't see them, you can't reach out and touch them. Some people feel left out on an island, and the only time someone reaches out to them is to give them more work. Erica mentioned earlier that you got people that work two jobs, I mean, not two jobs, work uh, enough for two people, so to speak. They get enough work for two people, and that makes them feel isolated, underappreciated, undervalued. And so, when was the last time your boss reached out to you just to see how you were doing, without attaching any work to any of that? It doesn't happen as often as it once was. And we live in a society where people have so much stress outside of work. I mean, the price of groceries right now are higher than eagle titties. It's ridiculous. And so the added stress of not being able to pay bills and whatever's going on at home can cause disengagement to those who feel undervalued. And it's something people really need to work on. So, all right. I want to hit something else, and appreciate you, cuz I do that myself. And I want to hit something else before we get ready to shut things down. I got the meme of the week. So let me get you all up here for the meme of the week. And the meme of the week is, it says, I'd rather the father be 100% absent than inconsistent. All right. So I'd rather the father be 100% absent, don't be in the kid's life at all, than be inconsistent. And Susie, I'll start with you first. What's worse, an absent dad or an inconsistent one?
I would say I'd need more information. Inconsistent in what way? I mean, I think there's always value in a child having access to their parent. Um, I think it depends on each situation. Obviously, if it's an abusive situation, then no. But I think there's always value. As a parent, I see the value in having both parents have some sort of role, even if it's a small role. It's just the way you have to explain it to the child. It's a sometimes thing, or talk to the parent about the father, having a different type of role. But I think being absent altogether is much worse to me, at least.
All right. Eminem, what do you think? What's worse, an absent dad or an inconsistent dad?
Well, I'm kind of like what she just stated. It's like you need more information, but I will give one example of where it's worse to be inconsistent. And y'all probably remember this Fresh Prince in that episode that wasn't funny. What I think Ben Vereen played Will's dad, and he kept promising he gonna take him on the road, but once he got a certain age, he was like, "Man, that's bullshit," and he was like really thinking that he was gonna do it, and each time he kind of just never do it. If you're gonna do that type of shit, well, yeah. But in most scenarios, a small role is better than no role at all, in most scenarios. But if it's one of them things where you always letting the kid down, well, I mean, if you're not gonna do it, you're not gonna do anything. So it's just like, it's best not to do it. I mean, that sounds real permanent, but I mean, it's kind of hard to look at. But in 85% of the scenarios where it's not some type of bullshit like molestation, just some of that over the top stuff. In normal sense, if it's just nothing but one parent don't do anything but just pick somebody up from school or whatever. That's the only thing they do. They don't provide anything for. I mean, that's better than nothing. But if it's a case like that episode of Fresh Prince, I don't know if y'all remember it. When that's in that case, it's like that's when you really hurting the kid. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Anybody remember the episode beside me?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I know what you're
okay.
talking about when you're disappointing the kid constantly.
Uh-huh.
And Buck, Dr. Willis, you two are dads. How do you feel about that? Absent dad or inconsistent dad?
Well, I would say
Well,
that I would say that I would say that when it comes to time, quality time spent, visitation, or any type of thing that will bring you face to face with your kid, then inconsistency is the worst by far. Okay. You may not have the most money in the world. You may not have the nicest ride, the best clothes, anything like that. The kid to get over that. If you're spending quality time with that kid, I'm not saying pick up this child, put him in a room in the house and say, okay, well, that's it, and that child by himself the whole weekend, what I'm saying, in the house with you, and then you bring him back to the mom. I'm talking about sitting down, sitting at the table, eating together. I'm talking about going to the park, depending on the age, if they're grown, then, what I'm saying, or getting to be grown, then, having conversations about life, what I'm saying, dating, things like that. If you're not doing those things, then, what I'm saying, just being inconsistent is probably by far the worst. All right. Anything else, I would say an absent dad is probably the worst. But when it comes to actual time face to face spent with this child,
Mm-hmm.
then an inconsistent dad in that area is the worst. Just don't show up at all.
All right. Buck, you were going to say?
I was gonna say, he pretty much said it all in a nutshell. I mean, it's better sometimes just to not be. If you're gonna be inconsistent, just not be in the kid's life at all, because you may do more damage, more harm than good. So it's just better to be, as consistent as you can than inconsistent, because there's a lot, and it really depends on the situation too, because sometimes the other parent may be part of the reason why there is some inconsistencies. So it just depends on what scenario that you're dealing with.
Okay. And Carrie, what do you think about it? I mean, like Carrie, if he's an absent dad and he's never around, then you kind of know what you're working with, and maybe stepdad gonna step up. I don't know, but how do you feel about it, Carrie? Inconsistent or absent?
So listen, I would, let me preface this by saying I don't have kids. I don't have kids, and it's going to depend on the situation, right? But for me, the first thing I would consider is the child. And so if this child is being affected in a negative way, you got to go. Because I can make up a war hero story real quick, and you just not, I can replace you with a fantasy like legend or whatever, right? Because the damage that you're causing to this child with that, kind of going back to what Eminem talked about with that Fresh Prince episode, that damage is lifelong. And that child is going to take that damage into other relationships as well. So I think inconsistency breeds a lot of anxiety and other inconsistencies as well. And so I would definitely want to see how it affects that child. But I'd also like to say, and I think Buck hit on that, right? Sometimes inconsistency is due to the other parent or situational, right? And so sometimes, to be honest, I'm assuming, hopefully all parents are practicing this. We got to give the other parents some grace. For me, what I'm a judge is the effort, right? So if you ain't got your life together, and I know you ain't got your life together, and you locked up all the time, you can't be there. But if when you're out, you're able to be there and you're giving me the effort when you are free to be out, I think I would consider that as well, right? And so that effort that the other parent is putting in that determines their inconsistency is what I would do to make a decision, because every child deserves to know both their parents and get to the age where they can make the decisions for themselves. But as a parent, as an adult, it's your responsibility to protect that child. And so if that means I got to make up a war hero story and just, X you out, then that's what I'll do.
Okay. All right. Good responses. Erica said I would say absent, because at least that leaves room for someone else to come in and fill that void, and the child is not holding on to false hope. So that's how she feels about it. I think you all gave some very good responses, and All right, I ain't gonna lie. I'm gonna sneak in one more since I was y'all were good with that. I'm gonna sneak in one more. This is for the women though. I'll let the guys comment, but this is for the women. All right, here we go, fellas. Well, it says fellas, but I want to ask the women this. Ladies, do you expect? Are you expected to take your husband's last name if you get married? All right. Essentially, do you take your husband's last name if you get married? Because there's some people who ain't down with that. All right. There's some people who don't want to do that. And so I'm gonna go to Carrie since she's laughing the hardest. And Carrie, should a woman take her husband's last name after getting married?
So if y'all are on my Facebook page or
Uh-oh.
Instagram,
Oh,
listen, we need a whole show on just this topic alone. Okay? Because I am not taking nobody's name, period. The thing
Mm,
is, guys like to say, well, you should take my name. It's not a big deal. Well, if it's not a big deal, why can't you take my name? Right? Because then what you're saying is that there's, to me, it comes off with like a level of ownership. And for me, I feel like I lose so much of my identity when I give up my name. Right? I've published books, I do podcasts, and I do whatever. I give up so much when I become someone different just because I decide to marry you. And if it's really not that big of a deal, then you take my name, or let's share names, let's swap names, right? But guys don't want to do that, right? Because that's not how we were raised. But for me, the history of a woman taking a last name anyway came from a patriarchal society where women were sold by their fathers to the highest bidder as a husband. And so for me, knowing that history, for me, we got to get outside of that mindset, right? And so I don't think the love is any different. If I don't take your name, I know some people also hyphenate names, but I feel like I want to keep my identity as is. I can totally be your spouse and be a good spouse. And me and my partner talk about this all the time. That's why I ain't married now. Because I'm like, listen, he's like, let's go do it. But the requirement is that I take the name, and I just am not comfortable with that. And I don't know where that came from, because obviously I grew up with everyone getting married and taking their husband's name. But sometimes, you just read through, maybe I got real woke real quick, I don't know, and now I feel like I am owned in a sense, and I feel like there's a certain sense of value that I lose by the demand. It's the demand that I must give up my name to be with you. I don't like that.
okay. And Ashley chimed in and said, I'll hyphenate it. So she's going to hyphenate hers when she gets married. And Susie, how do you feel about it?
I think it should be a personal preference. I don't think it should be a requirement. I didn't take my husband's last name, but that was just for me. It's my identity. It's who I am. I'm my father's daughter, and this is my name. This is who I am. So that was my choice, and my husband was okay with that. But it really is. Most of my friends, people around me, have changed their last name, but that was a personal preference of theirs. So I think it shouldn't be a requirement. It just, some people like to do it and some people don't, and I think it's okay. Either way, it's fine. Um it shouldn't be anything someone, not a hill to die on.
Okay. All right. And let's see. Erica says, I used to be 100% invested in taking a man's last name, but now I don't see the value in it. Ouch. And fellas, I mean, do you all care? Is it a big deal to you?
Nah, I don't care at all, man. And the reason why I don't care is this, because I look at it like this, and I tell folks around me all the time, that would listen. I say, we got to get away from we got to get away from foundation of slavery. All right, meaning that this equally yoked shit, and this taking of the last name thing. All these are just slave foundations wrapped up into Christian spirituality and religion. So let me not point out Christianity, but wrapped up into religion. So when we get away from that, then saying maybe the unions start to flourish a little bit more. But there's a like Carrie was saying, there's a history to a lot of this stuff. But a lot of that leads back to, like I said, slavery. How we got our last names. We don't we our last names that we carry today are not ours. They're probably some slave owner for centuries ago. You know, And we're carrying on that tradition when we say, hey, look, we're going to get married, you got to take my name. We're carrying on that tradition when we're telling somebody that we love, what I'm saying, we know there's potential there, but we got to be equally yoked. Are we cattle? Are we oxen? No. What I'm saying, equally yoked, all that stuff has connotations that, what I'm saying, a lot of folks don't really understand, because it's been wrapped up in pretty religious colors and attire. So they think that, oh, this is of God. No, this is of a slave foundation, and we're just carrying on these traditions to this day. So I could care less. If you want to take my last name, fine. If you don't want to take it, fine. All that matters is I love you. I hope you love me, and let's move forward.
All right. All right. Buck, you had anything to add?
No, not really. I mean, the thing is, it's not. We're in different times now, and with that being said, it's not a necessity. I mean, we have to be able to, you know, live in the moment, and a last name should not change the outcome of whether you be with somebody or not. So it's not something that's important to me.
Okay. And Erica said, I had too much hassle getting my maiden name changed back in my divorce. I'm
Yeah,
keeping it next time.
yeah, that's another component. I mean,
Yep.
it's really tough
I
getting their name back.
I never really thought about it from the historical aspect. You all make some good points. Um, I mean, my wife took my last name. If she said that she didn't want to, I mean, I guess it would have hurt my ego, but outside of that, it really wouldn't have affected anything else, I guess. But so maybe it's just an ego thing for a lot of people at this point. I'm not sure. But you all gave some interesting perspectives on that. So we'll take a quick break and then we'll come back and wrap up the show with our final thoughts.
Hey, my brothers and sisters, this is Ashley D, also known as the Sensible Sister. Sensible Sister is an online candle shop where we specialize in making natural, handmade scented candles. Our mission is to bring joy to our customers' lives through fragrance. Our scent choices are chosen through studies we research to find scents that will calm the mind, body, and soul. Every product is specifically handmade and scented to bring your mind to a place of serenity. Check us out at www.sensiblesister.com and follow us on Facebook at Sensible Sister LLC. And always remember, there is no such thing as having too many candles.
All right, we'll go ahead and get to our final thoughts. We discussed quiet quitting this evening, a little quiet firing, and I appreciate you all coming on and taking the time to join me this evening. And so we'll go ahead and wrap things up. You just have anything brief to say about quiet quitting, your final thoughts on it. And Dr. Willis, I'll start with you.
All right. Good show tonight. Anytime I get a chance to chop it up with a show legend in UQ is always a good day. And it was great meeting Carrie and Susie. Um, so get into it with the quiet quitting. One of the things that we don't talk about, how the role that a parent play. Not only do they teach us our work ethic, right? But another often untalked about effect that they have on our quiet quitting or anything in that nature is that we've watched them work, and we watched them work hard for years. And, and our eyes, see that, they're still struggling. So a lot of times you see that you're like, okay, well, why am I going to be putting in all this work and I'm not, and I'm going to end up just like my parents or something like that. So a lot of times that can affect also. Um, as far as a boss making the place, unhappy, yeah, definitely. A boss can make a place unhappy, whether intentional or unintentional. It happens, but uh, that's where a good leader would also take a step back and try to see, okay, if everybody's complaining about me, let me see if what am I doing? What I'm saying, what is it that I'm doing, and get some outside you know, go to someone on the outside of the organization looking in, or somebody that they may be talking to, and find out what they're saying about you and how can you change that. I've had to do that at the workplace I am. I mean, these guys down here don't even know me. I took over a team, and the mission, the homework was to for them uh, to better the workplace. You know what I'm saying? What would they improve from last year? I didn't even have them the year prior, but they made that whole thing about me. So so I had to take a step back and say, okay, well then what is it that I'm doing? Since you got, I didn't even have you guys last year, but since you wanted to make it about me, then let's address it. And then I had to address it, and then come to find out they really didn't have anything on me, but it was just they just don't like supervision, and so we had to learn that together. But getting and let's see, what was the other thing we talked about tonight. uh, well, other than that though, that's all I got on the topic. You know what I'm saying? It was a
Okay.
great show, and like I said, I enjoyed meeting the two young ladies, and look forward to talking up with them again in another show in the future.
All right. I appreciate it. Good to have you back on. And real quick, got a comment from Passionate Aries. Hey, this topic caught my attention for the same reason because caught my attention for some reason because I be quiet quitting all the time. It depends on how I feel and what day it is. So I be quiet quitting all the time. Okay. And Carrie, I get to you for your final thoughts, ma'am.
Hey, so I want to shout out Passionate Aries real quick. I be quiet quitting all the time too. And so sometimes, we talk about that, right? And we talk about the employees at some kind of mid-tier or lower level quitting. But to be honest, us in supervisory positions, we be want to quit too. So please understand that, right? Because sometimes y'all drive us crazy and be like, man, I don't need this
Yes.
job. So, what I want to
Almost by the
say.
OnlyFans.
Right. Listen. Let me go try something new because this ain't working.
Want to see
But
my feet?
correct. What I would like to say about the quiet quitting and the quiet firing is this, right? We oftentimes forget to approach a job as a relationship. It's a relationship, and so that relationship requires constant communication and feedback from both parties. So I am 100% concerned as a supervisor. I'm 100% concerned when my team is quiet quitting than when they used to be motivated. I want to know how to retain good talent. I want to know what I can do to keep them. If it's something within my control that I can change, I'm totally willing to do that because it's easier to retain people and continue to build this team than to bring a whole bunch of new people in and start all over. So I ain't trying to do all that. However, Miss Aries, for them people that be quiet quitting all the time, I'm just saying, I'm taking my notes all the time too behind the scenes, right? Because this is, and I think Dr. Will said it earlier, there are people out here who really do desire to be here. And so if you don't desire to be here, I would challenge you to tell the people that you work for, like, hey, I don't think this is for me, and I'm looking for something different. Help me find that. I will gladly help you get off my train because I ain't got no time for nobody slowing me down. Right. So if you don't want to be there, that's fine. And don't look at it as you are obligated to be here. You may want to keep this job to get this pay, but if you're going to get this pay, then you need to put in the amount of work for the pay that you're getting. That's all I ask.
All right.
Oh,
Good
great show,
stuff.
Q. Always a good time. Thank you. I love the conversation with everybody.
Always good to have you on. And you got any other information you want to shout out other than IG where people can find you?
Hey man, so I have been away from podcasting for a while. This is my first time back in front of the mic in months, and so I'm glad to come back out here and kick it with you, Q. But yes, I still have my IG as you can see on the screen, but I have something coming up pretty soon. And actually, I'm glad you brought this up because I am writing a book specifically for women struggling through micro assaults and microaggressions in the workplace, and some of those things that lead us to quiet quitting. So there's so much more to come, and of course, once I get it all finalized, Q, you'll be the first to know.
Oh, I hope I'm the first to get an autographed copy too. All right. I appreciate you. And let me get caught up on the comments before I get to the Susie. Passionate Aries says, my job now wants me to become a flex trainer or a soup. I'm like, I don't know yet. I just got here. All right. Queen Cole chiming in from South Carolina. So they're going to help you find the door. And discussions. Passionate Aries, I agree. If a job wants you to train other employees, they need to pay you for your expertise above doing your own job. And that's real. That's real right there. I mean, people aren't really getting what they feel like they deserve. And that's the whole problem there. But Susie, I'm gonna let you shut it down for me, ma'am.
Great. Yeah, I just want to echo what everyone said. Great discussion, great people. So it was great to meet you and be on the show with you. I just want to go back to kind of my empowerment stuff and how important it is to hold your own power and to know who you are and what you have to offer and realize the value of your own work life balance. If you feel you're being used in your job, set clear boundaries, make sure to avoid any extremes, quality over quantity. Do a good job, do what you're getting paid for. A good workplace makes you want to work hard and it makes you want to go above and beyond. So if you're quiet quitting, there's a reason, and find out what the reason is behind it. If you're not meeting your goals, if your job isn't a good fit, I think it's so important that you realize that and you do something about it. It's important to preserve your mental health, and be in a job and be in a place that fulfills you and makes you happy, and fills your cup. And if it's not, and if you just don't want to be there and you're just there for the paycheck, perhaps it's time to look for another job and give a chance to someone else who would love that job, because there is work out there that might interest you more. So I think it's so important, ethically, to give your all to your job, not to kill yourself over it and not to give more than your job deserves, but at the same time, don't sit back lazy and refuse to give anything. I think that's super, super important. Same goes for your personal life. Same goes, because this quiet quitting, actually, a lot of people are applying it to their dating life as well.
Mm.
And I think it's important that you do, but you should really ask yourself why you're doing it. And I think it's important that you're more self-aware about where you're at and where you want to be.
All right. All right. Let the people know where they can find you.
Divaoflove.com. There's a free empowerment journal there for you to kind of help you reach your goals and help you get to that point where you are more self-aware. So drop me a line anytime if you have a question.
All right. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show. Susie and I go back like a decade, back to our old blogging days.
Yes.
So it's always good to have you on. And actually said that is very true in dating. And
Hey,
yes, it
Q,
is. Yeah.
I really think you should do an episode on quiet quitting and dating. And let me know. That's a real
You know what?
thing that we're not talking about, but it is
Hmm.
happening. I've done it.
In marriages too.
And
People
marriage,
have done that in marriage. Yeah,
yeah.
you're right.
Part
Okay.
2. Quiet quitting, part 2. I'm there.
All right. All right. And it says, I feel what she's saying. Know your why with whatever you're doing to keep you motivated. All right. Good stuff, everyone. I appreciate you all taking the time to join the show. Give yourselves a round of applause. And know that like Susie said, you just have to know your worth, and it's just repeat after me. I am somebody.
I am somebody.
All right, everyone. That's going to do it for this episode of Talk to Q. I get my guest to hang backstage for me for a minute, and go to talktoq.com to get more information on the show. Search for me. Just Google hashtag Talk to Q. Just Google hashtag Talk to Q and find me on social media the same way. So I hope you enjoyed the show. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. We'll be back, and everyone enjoy the rest of your week. Peace out.